Joining us now, criminal defense and trial attorney Karen Charrington. She's in New York, and trial attorney Kelly Hyman is in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning, ladies, to both of you. Karen, to you first. What effect did Dr. Shannon Curry have on this trial, in your estimation? How much, if at all, did she move the needle?
Well, I mean, I think this doctor is really playing the role to weave in what the Depp's team has been trying to argue all this time, that Amber Heard is the aggressor, that she has issues, emotional, psychological issues. So this doctor really came in to solidify and bring together those arguments that she may be the one that has the issues and she may be the one who is the aggressor. But, you know, on cross-examination, it was brought out whether or not this doctor had some level of connection or maybe even awestruck with Johnny Depp and having dinner with him and having drinks. So because I think she's so, I would say, placed there to tie things together, it seems so obvious that she was hired to make this diagnosis, to bring on these facts to the jury. So, you know, I listened to her and I understood what she was saying, but thereafter on cross, hearing that she, you know, had a private meeting with Johnny Depp and the attorneys, and that she may have had some motive to say these things. So I honestly, for some reason, took her testimony with a grain of salt. It wasn't as compelling as it was to be, I think, in this case. So yes, ties together, she has issues, but then we also have to remember, you never have a perfect victim. So even if it's shown that Amber Heard has some psychological issues, mental issues, that doesn't mean she cannot be abused. So I still think there's more for the Depp team to do to really tie things together to show that Amber Heard was not truthful about her claims that she was abused. So we'll see how this testimony comes out, but it wasn't as compelling to me, to be honest, as I heard it.
Let's listen again to that portion of the cross where the doctor was asked about her dinner with Johnny Depp.
Now, you did not disclose in any of the designations or your report that you had met with and had dinner and drinks with Mr. Depp, did you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? That
you did not
me.
disclose in any of the designations or in your report that you had dinner and drinks with Mr. Depp, correct?
I did not disclose that I was interviewed by the legal team, no.
I asked a different question. Are you trying to resist that you didn't have dinner with Mr. Depp and drinks?
I'm not trying to resist that, but it's not quite right.
You did have dinner with Mr. Depp, did you not?
I did, with his legal team and Mr. Depp.
Did you not?
And what?
You had drinks with Mr. Depp, did you not?
Drinks were served. This was over 2 years ago. I may have had a drink with dinner, yes.
In fact, you thought you had a mule something, right?
Possibly.
Yes, okay. And you didn't disclose that you had met with Mr. Depp, Mr. Waldman, Mr. Chu, and Ms. Vasquez at Mr. Depp's house for 3 to 4 hours and had dinner and drinks, correct?
I did not disclose that. It's not significant to the report.
Kelly Hyman, does it matter that she had a Moscow mule at Johnny Depp's home while discussing the legal strategy? Or is it just that he doesn't go out and they had to meet there? What do you think?
I think it can go both ways. So we have to look at it from one standpoint, that defense wants to discredit her to show that she's biased, to show that she is a paid witness, a paid expert for the plaintiff in this case. But that's what the plaintiff's experts do. They are paid for their time. And the fact that she did not meet with him alone. The attorneys were there. Through the process of litigation, you meet with potential experts and discuss the case with them and see if they want to testify in their time. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think she's a doctor. She has to stand by her report. She has ethical obligations to do that. And based on her time looking and reviewing the information, she believes that Amber has these mental health issues.
Karen, as you alluded to earlier, her diagnosis sort of fit perfectly with the information that the jury has already heard. We also heard in cross some attacks that lend us all to believe that there are going to be some other professionals, some other doctors that take the stand who say the complete opposite about Amber Heard and possibly about Johnny Depp. When you have dueling experts, at the end of the day, is it typically a wash, or is it really significant if one can outdo the other?
Yeah, it's absolutely significant. I'm sure she'll have an expert who will come on and contradict what this doctor is saying. So I think that'll be very helpful. And to going to Kelly's point about the doctor's ethical obligations, I think here there should have been no, idea of impropriety here. I don't think she should have met with Johnny Depp personally. She is an independent, although hired by the plaintiff, she should have acted as an independent psychologist in this situation, which I think sort of damages or may have damaged her credibility there. So if they have another expert come in who seems very neutral, no connection per se, everything on the up and up, everything disclosed, whether there were any meetings, and if that doctor is believable, I think that that would be very significant for Amber Heard. She'll have to contradict, or the Amber Heard team will have to sort of accept the diagnosis and say, okay, yes, maybe I have issues, I have problems, but that does not mean Johnny Depp did not abuse me during the marriage. So I think really the burden is going to really weigh heavily on Amber Heard when she gets on that stand to be believable about the abuse in the marriage.
Yeah, and honestly, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Coming up, more on Amber Heard's mental health and what the forensic psychologist concluded from the evaluation. We'll break that down next. Welcome back. Testimony begins in less than an hour in the Johnny Depp defamation case that's pitting the Hollywood A-lister up against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. So far, jurors have been given an in-depth look at the former couple's toxic relationship through disturbing video and audio recordings, eyewitnesses. Even Depp himself got up and talked about it. Jurors heard yesterday from a psychologist who evaluated Amber Heard and whose diagnosis appeared to some to confirm Depp's description of Heard's erratic and aggressive tendencies. Take a listen.
There are 20 kind of core symptoms that somebody can manifest with PTSD. You don't have to have all of them. Ms. Heard initially said that she had, in the first question, you say, do you ever have this, before you get to the more nuanced follow-up questions. When I asked that first question on each item, she initially said, yes, I have that, to 19 of the 20 symptoms. That's not typical even of somebody with the most disabling form of PTSD. When we eventually sort of dialed it down, she had 3 remaining symptoms. And having symptoms of any disorder is common for all of us. Some of us struggle with sleep. Some of us get anxious. It could be several different disorders. It could just be that you have this struggle in your life. But she had 3 specific symptoms that I scored as present. Off the top of my head, I might miss one, but one was sleep disturbance. So she reported that she has frequent nightmares. Another one was that she said that she tends to have a startle response. So if she gets startled or surprised, she tends to stay in sort of a hyper startle mode for quite a while. And that's consistent with a couple of things. It can be consistent with PTSD if other criteria are met. It's also consistent with childhood complex trauma, which is something that can occur when your brain is forming. If you constantly feel unsafe, if your parents are abusive, or if they're not present, if you're neglected, you can develop certain physiological responses that can stay for a long time in your life. So I noted that seemed like a very genuine, accurate account where she stays in the state of kind of hyper arousal, has a hard time calming down if she gets surprised.
You mentioned nightmares as well.
Yes.
Did she recount for you the nature of the nightmares?
So they were vague. She indicated that she has recurrent nightmares and that she feels as though she's being held down. And there was some conflict in that account because even though that could be a PTSD symptom, it is fairly vague, but I still scored it as present. And in her initial treatment with with Dr. Bonnie Jacobs, which I believe started before she began dating Mr. Depp, she had indicated to Dr. Jacobs, according to Dr. Jacobs's notes, that she was having repetitive nightmares back then and that they were related to her childhood trauma. And so that came up several times in the notes. Dr. Jacobs kept mentioning that.
Thank you. What is feigning?
Feigning is essentially faking or exaggerating symptoms that aren't present.
Does the CAPS-5 control for that?
It doesn't necessarily control for it. It can expose it by drawing out
How does that work?
because you're not just simply handing the person a checklist that says, here are all the symptoms of PTSD. Why don't just check off the ones you have, which clearly if you're trying to look like you have PTSD, you would just check them all. The CAPS-5, because it requires them to describe in detail how they experience the symptom, where it shows up, what it looks like, what sort of examples they can give you, how many times it's happened in the last couple weeks, how many times it's happened in the last month. By the end of each symptom, you've gotten a very good picture of a couple things. One, does it meet the definition of the symptom? Are they getting it right? Is this actually the symptom, or are they kind of confusing this with something else? Number two, are they giving you very vague accounts? Are they giving you kind of a stereotyped idea of what the symptom is based on media or movies or something that actually is completely different from genuine experiences of this symptom? Or are they giving you a very genuine, heartfelt, sometimes minimizing, but it's ticking all the boxes, their mannerisms while they're describing it, the actual very specific, very nuanced, symbolic ways they're describing it. A lot of times it smells, it sounds. That all appears in genuine accounts, and it's something that people really get wrong when they're feigning.
My question on line 7, this is not an exaggerated profile, is it, for her? And your answer under oath at that time was no, it is not an exaggerated profile. Do you see that?
Yes, we're talking about the MMPI here.
You
Yes.
testified under oath at that time, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Now, the profile is also not consistent with malingering, correct?
The MMPI-2 profile, it's specific to how she approached this test, and you're correct. For this test, it was a defensive profile, not an exaggerated profile.
So my question on line 10 was, this is not a profile consistent with malingering, correct? And your answer under oath at that time was correct. On this test, it is not consistent with malingering, period, right?
Yes.
That was your full answer. Okay. Now, is it your testimony under oath today that you have not been asked to testify concerning Ms. Heard's behavior in the context of her relationship with Mr. Depp, including any abuse?
That's correct.
Okay. And you have not made any determinations, including any of opinions that Ms. Heard abused Mr. Depp or Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct. That's outside of the scope of psychology.
Okay. And you cannot testify whether Amber Heard suffered any emotional distress as a result of any of the defamatory comments that she has alleged Mr. Waldman made through Mr. Depp made through Mr. Waldman, correct?
What I can testify is that there was no indication of a decline in psychological functioning showing any injury since she's been with Mr. Depp.
Okay, a portion of Dr. Shannon Curry yesterday on the stand, still with us, criminal defense attorney and trial attorney Karen Sherrington in New York, and trial attorney Kelly Hyman in West Palm Beach, Florida. Kelly, to you first on this. The overall, the way that the Depp team has shaped it, they put Johnny Depp on for days and days. Then they continue their case with a couple of last witnesses, including this doctor. anticipating the defense case to begin afterwards. What's your thought on that? Typically, or a lot of times, we see the big witness go last or first sometimes, but they kind of wedge Johnny in almost the middle here. Your thoughts on that strategy and what it does to the jury as they look forward to Amber Heard? Because frankly, Dr. Curry is going to be closer in proximity to Johnny Depp before Amber takes the stand.
I think you bring up a really good point. A lot of people were thinking when Johnny Depp took the witness stand, was he the last witness called, because he was so powerful. I mean, he was so telling a story and so compelling that they were going to rest at that point as well. But I think it's important to remember that he set the stage. So he set the story. He told about his childhood growing up and how he was abused. And then he talked about the fame of being an actor, of what it was like and how he was secluded and dealing with that, and how that he has been harmed because of this, economically, personally, by his family as well. And then talked about Amber and the issues that they had for the relationship and the problems and the alleged allegations that there are mental health issues. So then they bring in this doctor to help substantiate the fact of the foundation that Johnny laid down. So I think strategically it was a very, very smart move by the plaintiff to have him in the middle. People were talking about the trial, talking about what he testified, what he said, and then she's corroborating that information as well. So I think the plaintiffs are presenting a very good strategic case on Johnny's behalf.
Karen, before Amber Heard gets onto the stand, they have, as Kelly said, set this table, and they've created this narrative that Johnny was moving along in his, yes, drunken and drug-infused life of a Hollywood actor, and along comes Amber, and he falls in love, and she turns out to be this button-pushing abuser with, now we have learned from this expert, borderline personality disorder. Why? That makes it very difficult for Amber Heard to get up on the stand and say, well, that's not true, or there's all of these things now are going through the jurors' heads as she's responding. And it's like one of those questions, well, you know, did you beat your wife? The old one where whatever you say to it is, well, I don't believe you. There's some people that aren't going to believe her because they have done this job of setting the table. It's a huge disadvantage. How does she have to respond? How does she have to comport herself, conduct herself? Right now, she's been very professional in that courtroom. Yes, there was an eye roll yesterday, but 90% of the time, Amber Heard has sat there emotionless. If you were her attorneys, how would you be prepping her for this role of a lifetime?
I mean, in this case, I think what I would do, honestly, is have an expert testify first to refute the claims of the prior doctor about her psychological and mental and emotional background. And then I would set Amber up to then testify, possibly accepting some of those diagnoses, even related to her childhood trauma, and also laying out the background of the marriage, the triggers, as you said, and whether or not possibly how she is wired mentally and emotionally could have been triggers to Johnny Depp, could have been triggers to him when he was using drugs or alcohol, and could have precipitated some of the abuse in the marriage. So I would definitely have an expert come on to explain how Amber Heard is emotionally, mentally, refute any claims by the prior doctor, and then have Amber come on and testify about her life, possibly, again, accepting some of those issues emotionally, and now laying out the abuse. But she would have to be extremely believable, and I think that's the only way she'll overcome what's been said at this table, is that she has to really come off believable to the jury and somehow sympathetic, which possibly her medical diagnoses by this doctor, if believed, could promote some level of sympathy for Amber Heard by the jury. So that's how I would approach it in having her testify.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense to embrace a portion of it and maybe have someone else set the table for you before you get up there, so all eyes aren't questioning everything you say and do. Coming up tonight on Court TV, anchor Michael Ayala will bring you a special hour of testimony of the day from the Depp Heard defamation trial. You know, we know you're going to watch us all day long, but in case you have to actually go to work or do something else, we've got it all wrapped into a 1 hour highlight hour, if you will, of what happened today. It's right here on Court TV. That's 7 Eastern, 6 Central with Michael Ayala. Still ahead, the jury has already heard a lot about the couple's famous friends. Well, what about this guy, Mr. Twitter, Elon Musk? He's connected here. We'll tell you how and why he may be called to testify. That's next.
Best deal ever. I'm Chanley Painter in Fairfax, Virginia for the Johnny Depp defamation case. And this is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back. Johnny Depp's legal team is expected to rest their case in chief earlier this week or next. Then Amber Heard's attorneys will start presenting their case. And our Chanley Painter is reporting that the first witness out of the gate, at least at this point, for the defense will be Amber Heard. 3 weeks of testimony has already revealed a disturbing relationship between Depp and Heard. It's also revealed their connection to several high-profile celebrities. On Depp's witness list is Avengers star Paul Bettany. Depp was questioned about Bettany and their text messages when he was on the stand. And on Heard's witness list, you have actor James Franco and Elon Musk, Tesla CEO, Twitter guy. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter explores why Elon Musk would have a connection to this case.
Billionaire Elon Musk is no stranger to the spotlight. His business ventures make news and shake markets, but his next headliner could have more to do with his private life. Musk briefly dated Amber Heard, who's fighting a lawsuit with ex-husband Johnny Depp. The billionaire's name has been part of the defamation case from the start.
You'll find out that Mr. Depp is obsessed with Elon Musk.
Depp called out the Tesla CEO in his initial complaint. He accused his ex-wife of starting a relationship with Musk about a month after marrying Depp in 2015. The complaint alleges that Heard told staff at the couple's penthouse to give her friend Elon access to the building's parking garage and penthouse elevator late at night. Depp's lawyers also asked Musk for records of correspondence with Heard on various dates from 2013 to 2016, including text that Heard accused a Depp lawyer of leaking to the press.
He wanted to destroy her.
Heard has denied cheating on Depp with Musk. Now, the billionaire's lawyer told People magazine that they started dating after Heard and Depp split in May of 2016. That's when Heard sought a restraining order against Depp and when Isaac Baruch said he first saw Musk in the building.
I'm getting into the elevator on the rooftop, penthouse level, and he's coming out of the elevator, going past me.
And when did that take place?
This is after May. This is sometimes June, it could be July, but after May.
In that same year, 2016?
Yeah.
Elon Musk is on Heard's witness list as she fights to prove that Depp ruined her life with false allegations that she abused him.
The evidence will show that for years, all Mr. Depp has wanted to do is humiliate Amber, to haunt her, to wreck her career. That's what the evidence will show in his words.
Let's bring back our guests who have been with us all morning, Kelly Hyman and Karen Charrington. Karen, do you, does this star power, how does it, in your opinion, sort of cloud this case overall? It just is a little different, is it not, when you have these names and people have preconceived notions about the person who is going to deliver some sort of testimony when you compare it to a complete stranger?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think when you have this star power, it will, have the jury feeling like, should I be on Musk's side? Even though the trial is not even about him, but the fact that he may testify on behalf of Amber Heard, will that give some level of, star power to her case, where they may be swayed because of these people testifying? The fact that Johnny Depp is who he is, right, is also going to come into play with the jury's deliberations, and hopefully they have no biases one way or another, because these are both high-profile actors. So this star power coming in, it also adds to the drama of this case, which I believe this is really just one dramatic, sort of theatrical presentation. So it's really adding to just this drama of this case.
Yeah, the drama continues to build day by day. I mean, you think it's going to settle down a little bit, and then something else happens. We're about 20 minutes away from the beginning of testimony. Amber Heard just arrived to the courthouse a few moments ago. As always, she's pretty quick getting from vehicle into the courthouse. And there have been some security concerns reported about her because of the amount of Johnny Depp fans there and people that are so pro-Depp. I'm sure it's a very uncomfortable and difficult position to be in. Kelly, to you on this idea of the high profile, we don't know for sure if Elon Musk is going to take part in the trial. His name's been brought up several times. He's on the witness list. But if he gets up there and I'm a juror, well, I might be thinking about, I love Tesla, or I really hate Twitter, or whatever, what it might be. It's different because you've got some sort of one-sided relationship with this person that is now talking about the case at hand.
No, I think that's true. You bring up a really interesting point, because if he testifies, are people going to really like him because he's a billionaire? Are people going to be really upset the fact that he bought Twitter and it's going private, and people are very, very unhappy about that? But we have to think about, if he's going to testify, what is he going to testify to, and how is he going to help Amber and substantiate her claim? Is he going to testify and say, yes, that at that time that Amber told him that the situation with Johnny Depp was abusive, but if he didn't see anything and that's all hearsay, are they going to let all that testimony come in? Or is he going to help substantiate the fact that yes, that this whole situation has ruined her and that it's caused her psychological harm? We're just going to have to wait and see if he's going to take the witness stand and what exactly he's going to say. But absolutely, it brings more intrigue, more drama to this. This is like a soap opera playing out every day. We don't know what's going to happen. But we also have to remember that these are human beings, and it is their life, and it really is affecting both of them, personally, professionally, and psychologically as well. And I think it's important to take that into account as we watch this trial play out in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if Elon Musk were to partake in this, it would be part of this case. It would be during Amber Heard's case in chief, which we're expecting to begin next week. Coming up, testimony from the police officer who responded to Heard's domestic violence call, what she says she noticed when she arrived at Johnny Depp's penthouse. That and more coming up next. We're about 20 minutes away from day 10. Stay with us. There's the arrival of Johnny Depp just a few moments ago while we were in commercial break. As always, he acknowledges our Court TV cameraman, and then the bailiffs, and then finally the fans that are cheering for him outside the courthouse. Much different entrance each day than Amber Heard's, which is more direct. We're just a few moments away from testimony to resume in this $50 million libel lawsuit that Johnny Depp filed against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. She, of course, has the $100 billion countersuit. The crux of the case, of course, centers around a Washington Post article that Amber Heard wrote back in 2018, where she describes herself as a domestic abuse survivor. A claim that Depp says is a clear reference to him, although his name is actually never mentioned in the op-ed. The jury has seen plenty of evidence so far of the former couple fighting. There was also a 2016 incident when police were actually called to a domestic violence call at Depp's penthouse. Take a listen.
ask you to take a look at exhibit number 27. Again, do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you see redness on the cheek of Amber Heard on this one?
Yes, I do.
All right. And then you had testified on a number of these other pictures and on this one as well that this is consistent with crime. Do you see any redness on Amber's other cheek?
Yes, I do.
Is it the same or similar to the redness on the cheek, on the right cheek?
Based on this photo, it looks like one cheek is redder than the other.
But you also don't see any swelling with that?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit number 28. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you see redness on the right cheek and above the eye?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And is it your perception that this reflects any type of, or could reflect any type of injury?
No.
Why not?
Because my perception is it was consistent with her crying.
All right, let's take this down, go to 29. I'm going to ask you the same questions. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes.
And do you see any redness in the right cheek and above the eyelid?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your perception that these are not indicative of injury?
Yes.
And what is your reasoning?
It's consistent with her crying.
Let's take this one down. Let's go to number 30. Now, you testified earlier that you thoroughly searched the penthouse. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Josh Drew, the gentleman that you called the generic male, actually took you through, escorted you through the penthouse and the series of penthouses, correct?
Correct.
Officer Science, did you or did you not thoroughly search the penthouses on May 21st, 2016?
We did search the penthouse.
Okay. And you used the term thoroughly, did you not?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you feel like you conducted a thorough search of the penthouses that night?
Yes, I did. I did a sweep of the location for the suspect.
Okay. And when you're talking about a sweep of the location, did you go through every room?
Yes, every room.
Okay. And was there anyone escorting you through those rooms?
Yes, the same male that we were met with at the beginning of the call.
That you called the generic male, correct?
Correct.
Now, you also testified a little earlier that this was a very nice series of penthouses, right?
Yes.
Did you interview the woman that was sitting with Amber Heard?
I attempted to. All parties were uncooperative.
What did you say to the woman that was with Miss Heard?
I don't recall the exact words, but I introduced myself to everyone and asked if they seen what happened or know what happened, and they all refused to speak to me.
Did you ask for their names?
I recall, yes, I did ask for their names. Nobody would give me their names.
Now, that's a little unusual, isn't it?
No, it's not. A lot of people don't like us.
Well, is it that they don't like you, or is it potentially that they don't want to, with a domestic violence situation, are reluctant to press charges?
Every situation's different. Based on my training experience where I work, it's usually that people do not like us.
Do you have a recollection of what the woman who was with Amber Heard looks like?
No recollection.
Do you know what color hair she had?
I have zero recollection.
So you don't recall how old she was, how tall she was, what her hairstyle was, what she was wearing, anything about her?
Zero recollection.
But somehow you're sure you tried to interview her and she refused to answer questions.
Yes, it's common practice. I try to interview everyone during my investigation.
So did you pull out your notebook at any time while you were in the penthouse?
I did not. I had nothing to write. No one would speak to me.
Well, how did you know that when you started asking the questions that they weren't going to give an answer?
Because they just looked at me.
But wouldn't you pull out your notebook first and then ask the questions? Then write down the answers as they're giving them to you?
No, I don't put anything in my hands for officer safety issues until I'm sure that I have something to write.
I'm sorry, officer. Can you repeat your answer?
I don't put anything in my hands for officer safety reasons. If I'm not sure I'm going to write, I keep my hands free. When I ask the questions, I got no answers. Therefore, I didn't take out any notebooks or pens.
That officer obviously deposed at an earlier date that was played for the jury. Kelly Hyman and Karen Charrington are still with us. Karen, the cross-examination of trying to attack the officer, it was a little bit annoying to me, and like chalkboard, scratching it, because this officer came across as expected, doing her job. No one's talking to her, doesn't get any names, doesn't see any harm to anybody there physically, moves on, writes a report, and she's out of there. The badgering of a witness like that, can it backfire? Do jurors actually hold lawyers responsible for their techniques in a case? Can you develop a love or a hatred for an attorney that moves the ball?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in this case, I think the good thing is that this attorney, just in her demeanor, even though she was asking questions that seemed unnecessary and wasn't going anywhere, at least she didn't come off as if she was badgering the witness or really attempting to make the witness look bad or feel a certain way. So there, even though I don't think she got much out of it, she does have a job to try to uncover anything she can on cross. If you have a witness saying that she saw someone and didn't have injuries, I think her observation was pretty subjective, that this officer, she did say, that she saw redness, but she thought it was because she was crying, but she's not an expert, so she can't really say that. So I think bringing that out, those were some good things to bring out on cross. So, but I think this attorney's demeanor is one where she doesn't really come off as being belligerent, even though it may seem a little boring and unnecessary.
And she's consistent throughout. So that's key. She wasn't going after this witness any more than she's gone after anybody else. Kelly, I want to switch gears back to the testimony from the expert that came in, Dr. Shannon Curry, and talked about Amber Heard's mental fitness. One of the questions that a lot of us have had is, well, what about Johnny? What about his mental fitness? Did he get evaluated? Well, according to sources close to the Depp team, he was not evaluated. And the reason that Amber Heard was evaluated is because she brought it up in pretrial motions that PTSD was a part of the equation. They asked then for an independent evaluation of the PTSD, and that's where Dr. Curry comes in. She comes in and now testifies, oh, I think she was lying about the PTSD, but by the way, world, she's got, in my opinion, borderline personality disorder. This seems like a colossal nightmare for the Heard team, that they started this, and legally it was allowed, an independent evaluation. If you want to say PTSD, our person gets to come and see yes or no. Your thoughts on that revelation that Johnny Depp was not examined, but she was, and sort of huge advantage, is it not?
Absolutely. I think you bring up a really good point. We talk about the narrative. Like, a trial is like theater. It's time for the plaintiffs to tell their story and have their voice be heard. And absolutely, Johnny is absolutely telling his story to the American people. And this woman helps substantiate the fact that Johnny's saying that I was not the aggressor. Yes, I am not perfect. I came from an abusive family. I had issues with substance abuse, alcohol abuse. I'm not perfect at all, but I was not the aggressor. I didn't hurt this woman. I've never hurt women before. And because of Amber's mental health issues, that she has these problems and has these issues, and she she is the aggressor. And this doctor helped substantiate that and did a very good job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Karen, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
.com.
Did you provide a copy of this pamphlet to Amber Heard?
I did not. I did not identify her as a victim of domestic violence. We met with the victim. We checked the location. The husband wasn't there. And that the victim advised us that she just had an argument and that she wasn't going to give us any further information.
Top of the hour, welcome back to Court TV. It is day 10 of live testimony in Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's courtroom war. Our cameras are in the courtroom. We're bringing you this trial from start to finish, gavel to gavel. There's a live look inside the courtroom. The judge has just taken the bench, and as is customary of each day, a quick sidebar to make sure all parties are on the same track before they bring the jury in. Let's bring in Alexis Rosenberg. She's an attorney in Sarasota, Florida, and Kelly Hyman. She's been with us all morning. She's in West Palm Beach, Florida. Alexis, welcome. Good morning to you as we get ready for day 10 of this trial. Yesterday we heard a lot of testimony, and significantly Dr. Shannon Curry got up and basically diagnosed Amber Heard for the entire world to hear. Your thoughts overall, how this is going for Johnny Depp, for Amber Heard, and specifically how that testimony yesterday may have moved the ball?
I think it's going fairly well for Johnny Depp. I mean, the psychologist was supporting and explaining much of Heard's behaviors. It supported the diagnosis that she had provided. I mean, there was some question, obviously, on cross, which is their job to go in and discredit her with the fact that she had had drinks with Depp, the fact that there was some disclosures prior to her even evaluating and making her diagnosis that, Ms. Heard had borderline personality disorder. But it really did support her actions once we heard the different recordings and what she was doing on those recordings.
Kelly, set the table for today. It seems like this would be a good spot to stop if you're the Depp team. We are going to have a few more witnesses, specifically a couple more of these officers from Los Angeles that responded to this domestic violence call, and it turned out that they didn't get any cooperation with the people inside the apartment, including Amber Heard. What do they need to still do, or have they done enough, do you believe, to get a favorable verdict?
I think the team for Johnny Depp has done a great job representing him and advocating for him. But I think the officers are key because when people see them on the jury, they know they're unbiased. They don't have a fight in the game. So the fact that they were there and they helped substantiate Johnny's assertion that he wasn't the aggressor, that this is not true, that he was not a wife beater, that he didn't harm him. And I think the officers do a great job of being there and telling what happened, and they believe, based on what they saw, that she wasn't physically abused, and they tell a really good story for Johnny and help substantiate his claim. But I think it'd also be helpful to show how much economic harm he's had because of this. Have another person testify to it, of talking about how it's really ruined his career and will continue to ruin his career because of the harm of all this that he's been through.
Alexis, the idea that an officer shows up when a domestic violence call has been made can go two ways. Either nothing really happened and the person that called is having the feeling for calling in the first place, or something did happen and the feeling and the victim is having that same feeling because they don't want to put their aggressor into a rage. There's a lot of reasons why you don't cooperate in a domestic violence situation with police. Having more of these officers testify, do you think we'll get some clarification, even more so, because we're going to get some redundancy, but maybe some more clarification as well?
I agree with you. There's many reasons that victims of domestic violence might not cooperate. However, in this case, it seems that the officer that, as stated before, is unbiased and has come into the situation with the job to basically evaluate this and determine whether someone is in danger and what exactly is going on. And the initial testimony that we've heard, there was that she's not seeing that anybody has been harmed physically. There's no marks on Ms. Heard, and obviously she's upset. But with her experience and expertise, this officer did not perceive this to be a situation where she needed medical care or a situation where she needed to continue with that investigation. Now, obviously, we'll have to see what the other officers testify to, but I would assume that it's going to be similar and go along the same lines. Otherwise, one of the other officers probably would have either put in a report or something of that nature that they